If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Breaking news tonight on News 4 at 10. An attempt to assassinate former President Donald Trump during a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The Secret Service responding and rushing him off stage to safety. Here's what we know right now. The former president is doing okay. He was taken to a hospital after being rushed off stage. We are being told the suspected gunman was killed moments after the former president was shot. We understand one spectator was killed. The victim's identity has not yet been released. NBC's Alice Barr with more tonight on the attempted assassination.
Former President Trump is safe tonight after a horrifying moment, an apparent assassination attempt at his rally in Butler County, Pennsylvania. The former president writing on Truth Social that he was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of his right ear.
It just went pop, 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 pop. And then as I was staring straight ahead, I looked across and I didn't see anything. So I looked back at President Trump, and that's when he went down.
The U.S. Secret Service says it neutralized the shooter, who is now dead. One spectator was killed, 2 others critically injured. The Secret Service saying the shooter fired several shots from an elevated position outside the secured rally venue. The former president had just started speaking shortly after 6 when loud pops rang out. He reached for his ear and dropped to the platform behind the podium as Secret Service agents rushed the stage and surrounded him. Blood could be seen on his right ear running down his cheek toward his mouth, and he pumped his fist to the crowd as he was hustled to a waiting SUV. Former President Trump thanking law enforcement and offering condolences to the person who was killed and those injured. President Biden addressing the nation.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this.
As lawmakers and Americans from both sides of the aisle send prayers for healing and for peace. In Milwaukee, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And we are hearing from Siouxland lawmakers tonight. Iowa Congressman Representative Randy Feenstra released a statement on Facebook saying, quote, "Join me in praying for President Trump." Nebraska Representative Mike Flood also reacting to the assassination attempt, saying, praying for President Trump, his family, and everyone at the rally. South Dakota Representative Dusty Johnson said, praying for President Trump. And you can see a full list of reaction tonight from Siouxland political leaders on our website at ktiv.com. Chair Jeff Kaufman reacting tonight, saying this is a new level of violence.
I think where we double down on the condemnation of any kind of political violence, we double down that all Americans, regardless of their political affiliations, have every right to feel safe when they go into an environment, to vigorously unify behind their candidate. And I think we double down in ensuring and making sure that we continue to make these events as safe as possible.
Bishop Walker Nicholas from the Catholic Diocese of Sioux City says this country needs prayer. In a statement released tonight, he says, today is a tragic day for our country due to the violence in Pennsylvania this evening. There is no place for political violence in the United States. The events today demonstrate the great need for prayer. It is a time to pray for peace and pray for an end to violence. We must also pray for those who have been killed or injured in the event and their families, and pray for the quick recovery of former President Trump. Pray also for the United States at this heartbreaking time. Moving forward, may we show love and respect for one another in this great country. Stay up to date with this developing story and receive breaking alerts as they happen by downloading the News 4 app. Receive alerts as they come into the newsroom. It is free to download in the Apple App Store and Google Play.